Good.
Yep, you're good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, Max.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. So thanks for joining me, Coach. All you coaches are always on time. I love it. It's awesome. Now I know all your players. That say like, oh, we always have to be on time and stuff like that. Like now I know where it comes from. So that's good to see. All the coaches are on the same page. Where are you living? New York?
I'm in Illinois right now at my
Oh, okay.
in my wife's house. So it was
Okay.
easy. Like they were older, and so we wanted to come help take care of them, and just been watching them, and so they don't have to leave the house and do anything. And you know, they get scared like whenever they open the front door, they yell at us and stuff.
Oh,
So
wow. So everybody's safe, healthy in your family?
everybody's healthy for sure.
Cool, man.
So
Cool.
we left like I think the season got canceled on Thursday and maybe left Friday night. And
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
got to get out and wasn't obviously planning on it being this long, but um I don't know. We just made do and everybody's gotten along really well and the kids have been good. And I have a year olds, 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. So I got high school, middle school, and elementary school all covered every morning.
Oh, wow. Okay. So why don't we pick it up from where were you guys and kind of what that conversation was like with the team when the season kind of obviously got put on hold and then it was dismissed this season. Did you kind of know it was coming, and was that one of the harder conversations you had to have with the team ever?
It was I think probably the worst thing was is we didn't get like a final conversation with
Mm,
the team. Um what had happened is we played LIU on Tuesday and then we were supposed to leave for Florida on Friday morning for spring break and we're playing Dartmouth down there
mm,
and then Florida. And so then we get morning of Wednesday. I have a meeting at 1 o'clock just to discuss the Florida trip and everything to that nature. I'm staying in touch with my players and then Wednesday night it comes out that Dartmouth gets canceled in the Ivy League. And so
mm.
that was the
Yes. Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
and so then that was like, really threw off our Florida trip. I was talking to Stetson, I was talking to Central Florida about maybe going to play down there. And then Thursday morning I got a call from admin and they were just not wanting us to travel to Florida. They said, "Hey, the
Mm,
season's going to stay on. We're going to cancel for probably a week and a half or so and then come back after spring break because we were going on to spring break." And so I met with the team. They were disappointed about Florida, but I said, "Hey, listen, our administration's trying to do everything they can to play. You guys now will be off.
mm.
um, we'll try to come back. I'll stay in contact over spring break when we need to be back and everything." And then I think it was about 4 o'clock that afternoon that the NCAA did it. And one of my kids was driving home and they texted me and they're like, "Is this true about the NCAA?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then
That's a good point.
out through Twitter, they didn't announce it through administration or anything of that nature. They sent it out through Twitter. So unless media, you didn't see it right away. And right after Twitter, it started to blow up on ESPN and everything to that nature. And from like 4 to 6 o'clock, I was just getting a lot of calls from the kids asking me what I knew, what I didn't know. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm sitting here just like you guys, like there just wasn't answers."
That's a different answer than what I've heard from some people. Some people, obviously, the spring break, they were able to have that final conversation. So I'm sure since then you guys have been doing stuff like this, Zoom calls, and you probably did you got that conversation with some of the teammates, but probably not the conversation that you wanted.
I had, almost 12 seniors and, that was
Oh,
where
wow.
my big focus of the first 2 weeks was spent with was like, just talking to them on the phone, trying to figure out a plan with them and, just following like everything else. The NCAA came back and said, "Hey, you're going to get, the year back right away," but they didn't say how. They didn't say
Mm,
seniors back. They didn't, say scholarships. I mean, there was just a million problems. And so finally on like, I think it was a Monday afternoon in the evening, they came back and said, everybody would get their year back. And so I spent most of my time with the seniors, and I think like I got 6 or 7 of them are going to come back. 2 might have to leave to go to another school, and then 3 or 4 are going to just graduate. So they already had jobs and stuff planned up. One's working with the Nationals, and one got into the Marines, where he's going to be an officer. And so they just couldn't turn back on those plans. But
Yeah.
kids, I wasn't worried as much about them as I was the seniors. The seniors, just a rough deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like everything's kind of working out. So why don't we back up because obviously your story, every story has a different baseball slash softball beginning. So what did baseball mean to you at an early age when you were first growing up? Was it like that first love that you had? Was there another sport, or was it always baseball from day one? And kind of how did your playing career progress as you got older?
I grew up in South Florida, in Vero Beach, Florida. So it grew up in Dodger Town, and so I
Mm.
grew up watching the Dodgers. But I was a Braves fan, and with spring training being there, my dad used to pick me up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon from school to take me over to a spring training game at 1:30. And I just grew up young kid watching big leaguers play and going watching their practice, and got to meet Sandy Koufax and Drysdale, and um, just seeing him walking around Holman Stadium was just awesome as a kid. So that was my first love. Was a young kid going with my dad to spring training games and then playing baseball. And then when I got to high school, I played soccer and tennis and messing around with cross country. Like I just liked everything. And so
Mm.
baseball was really tough at Vero. We had over 2,400 kids in our graduate or school and 800 in our graduating class. And so as a sophomore, I made the varsity baseball team. But there was just a lot of pressure with that, a lot of stuff. So that's why I kind of like the other sports. It got me away from just being baseball heavy.
Mm.
And it's also affected like my recruiting. Like I like kids that are multi-athlete kids, like that are
Mm.
doing all. And because I feel like people talk about, kids have lost at this day and age. They don't care about winning or losing. The kids that play three sports care about winning and losing. They just know how to compete. And I think that's the trait that the three sports does for you is, the willingness to compete. And I like teaching kids like that because you can be really tough on them and you're not judged as being a nice coach or a hard coach. If you're just a baseball coach and they're doing baseball all the way around, they judge you as, oh, he's a good guy or coach. They just don't judge you as a coach. And
Mm.
I just really relate well to those guys that are just do different stuff, multi-athletes, and have room to learn and grow and stuff like that. So I don't need a finished product at Hofstra. I want to get somebody that's really raw as a freshman and then bring them in and try to get them more drafted or better, their junior and senior year. And so we've had a lot of success with that, with like Rooney going in the third round but undrafted out of high school, then
Mm.
Verbitsky not getting drafted out of high school. And the common denominator with those was, John was a first team All-State basketball player.
Mm.
And, and Verbitsky was a football player, basketball player, and baseball player. So, those were guys that just really hit it off with me when
Oh,
I
that's
grew up.
awesome. That's awesome. So growing up, did you have plans to play? You played in high school. Did you play college? Did you go to college to play baseball, or did you play another sport in college? And where did you go to college?
So I went to Indian River Community College, which is, one of the top programs. We went to the World Series while I was there. I wasn't, I just wasn't good as those players were. And so was really good. So then what I did was I also messed around with tennis while I was at Indian River Community College and did boat sports. And my dad had a best friend that went to Troy University,
Okay.
and his that guy ended up becoming the head coach at the University of West Alabama. His name is Mark Smart.
Mm.
And over Christmas break, he called me to see if I wanted to transfer up at the break to play some baseball. It was a Division II school out in the middle of nowhere. I had never left Florida. I never saw snow. Grew up a surfer kid. Um, and so, I just made a decision one day to go try it. And I got up there, people talked funny. It was weird. 2,500 kids at the school. About 2 weeks in, I hated it. Um, my first game was down at West Florida. About
Okay.
2 weeks prior to the first game, I tried to quit. I was going to the head coach's office to tell him I was going to go home to Vero Beach, Florida, that, West Alabama wasn't the place for me. And got stopped by an assistant coach, Shane Adams, and he said, stick it out. You're almost to games and you haven't really given us a shot yet, and did it. So then the first game I did it. And I started to get along really well with my head coach, and
Mm,
him and I just talked a lot the same. And even though I was from South Florida, he played at Troy University. He was in their Hall of Fame. He was from Georgia. His nickname was Scrap because he was so tough, and his and my demeanor just got along really well. And um, then I ended up playing for him that year. We finished first in the conference, played Delta State in the tournament, and eliminated them, but we lost to North Alabama. And then the next year, we weren't as good. Then I went to an independent baseball league
mm,
in Zanesville, Ohio, in the Frontier League with the Zanesville Grays, and I was there for about a month. And I met Patrick Anderson, and Patrick Anderson had played for Zanesville Grays for 2 years, and then him and I became best friends. And then Patrick ended up getting the head job at Hofstra University in
mm,
2008,
mm,
and he brought the assistant coach. And my old head coach is now the head coach back at Troy University, his alma mater.
mm.
And him and I are great friends to this day. And Patrick Anderson's great day, my best friends in all of baseball and in life. And so baseball, even though I came from and the funny thing is I never went back to Florida, after leaving. Loved, and I've been in the North ever since. So I went there, I went
Yeah,
to
that's crazy, man. So that must be such a culture shock from coming from Florida, going to West Alabama. Was that just like, obviously you said that people talk funny, you're judged on the two football teams that you like, that it seems like that's the age old question. You're either a Roll Tide or a War Eagle. That seems like that's the question there. And then you end up in New York. I mean, how are they kind of different and how are they kind of similar would be my question to you.
you know, the thing about Alabama was the people there were so nice, and there were only two street lights and um, subway in the middle of town, and you can get pizza at the local gas station and stuff like that. And at first, I just didn't fit in, and I like to say this is like 2 years later, you could have made me the mayor of Livingston, Alabama. Came really well. And the thing, and then I went to New York, and obviously New York is so much different than Alabama.
Oh yeah.
Is as fast paced as you can humanly be, and then one is as slow as you can humanly be. And the thing that I fit in both places was I have a lot of patience. I don't scream or yell. I'm not I just, try to generally be nice. And, people when I got to New York were like, hey, they're going to run all over your niceness and all of this
Mm,
stuff. And I keep getting it, but I just kill people with kindness. And I'm not going to let Long Island change me. I wasn't going to let West Alabama change me. So I fit in really well at both places. I say this about Long Island, it has some of the craziest people I met, but it also has some of the best people I've ever met, and then they'll go out and above and beyond to do anything for you.
oh, great point. Great point. Yeah, we're in the retail business, so yeah, kill them with kindness. We kind of I kind of get what you mean in that point. So the Hofstra, you get to Hofstra in 2008. Like, what is the difference of being an assistant and then you get the job? I think in what 2012 you got the head coaching job. So
That was,
what's been the biggest difference being the assistant to being the head coach?
you know, um, Jeff Hathaway was my athletic director. I got hired by one athletic director, but Jeff came in the middle of the 2012 season, so he came in as my AD.
Mm,
And my 2012 fall, so it was after I went from interim to the head coach. I was sitting in the office. It was like October, and Jeff stopped by my office, and he opened the door and he goes, "Hey, John, how's everything going?" I said, "Everything's great, sir." And he goes, "This office is a lot different than your other office, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Nobody knows it until they're in this office." And what he meant by it was you're just busy. Like
mm,
everybody always wants to get to the head coach. Everybody wants to if there's a problem at the school, they go to the head coach. If there's something done at the school, it has to go to the head coach. If a recruiting coordinator wants to get to you, he wants to get to the head coach. Anything that wants to be done always goes through the head coach. So like how you said early on about us being on time and stuff like that, that's just what you have to do. Like there
mm,
is no greatness. And, as an assistant, you just don't notice how quiet it is and how much time you have to just watch film or check out a guy's video or, prepare for the other team and stuff like that. And I find myself a lot of times just going into the assistant's office, sitting on their couch and, decompressing for about 30 minutes, not talk, admin stuff or fundraising or talk to alumni or, just a million things that you didn't do as an assistant coach. One big thing right now, just worried about budget. You're
Mm,
worried about it in the retail business. I have to worry about it with our program. And that was something as an assistant coach I didn't do, like I would go recruiting anywhere I want and Patrick would never say anything to me. But now as a head coach, I'm like, he was really nice to allow me to go to these places because I was spending a lot of money thinking, they're just handing this out at a ATM
mm,
machine. Weren't. It was, stuff he was fundraising for and allowing me to do. And now I have to do that for my assistants. And, I don't think they understand it, nor should they. I think it's
mm.
something you you listen and you hear and you think you know it, but until you're positioned to have to do it, and the other part is like anything that happens with the kids. Like if something happens with a kid on campus or, he was mean to a teacher or didn't do something, straight to the head coach. So then when I'm yelling at the assistants about something, they don't get it, but I'm the guy getting the phone call. I'm the guy getting
Mm.
it. And stuff as an assistant, I didn't understand.
Great point. Great point. So, at Hofstra, like, what is recruiting one of the harder parts of the job, and what do you look for? What is your prototypical Hofstra baseball player? What are you looking for in the recruiting process?
So like that was the hardest thing first and foremost was when Patrick and I got there, we had to decide, we had only 19 kids in the program on 2008. So like they
Wow.
just program was really decimated. So the first year we brought in 24 kids and people were like, they redid this, they did all this, they got these guys out. We didn't do nothing. We just started a program. Like,
Mm.
we needed players, we needed bodies. And so we had a total rebuild. And it was really neat to see in that 2012 club,
Yes.
that was only a year later. And we took that group of guys and made them, 34 wins and had a great year and best in history and all this stuff. But, if people would have saw us in 2008, they would have never believed that in 100 years. And, between us, St. John's, and Stony Brook, you had the most wins in a 30-mile radius of any three schools in the country.
Mm.
They went to the Super Regional, and Stony Brook went to the World Series that year, and Hofstra had 34 wins. And so, I think that year we put Long Island baseball really on the map. And but the thing that Hofstra is private and basically a public league, and that's our big thing with the CAA. It's not the Southern opponents. It's at Wilmington's a state school. It's James Madison's a state school. William Mary's a state school. So we just have a hard time competing in that. So we have to find kids that have really, really good grades, first and foremost, because we have to package academic money with baseball money to make it affordable for parents to go to school there. And if it's they don't have academics, it's usually really tough for us to recruit them. So, what I started doing was like looking to see who the Ivies were recruiting, who the Patriot Leagues were recruiting, and then try to recruit those same type of kids that maybe wanted a little bit better brand of baseball with the Colonial Athletic Conference. And we seem to have success. The hard part is just our league. We sweep UNC Wilmington last year. They were top 40 in the country
Yeah.
and as good at 3 wins as anybody in the Northeast had. But people don't talk about it that much because that's our conference. That's what we do on
Mm.
a weekend. And if another northern school was to go and sweep Wilmington 3 games, everybody be talking about it and how good they were and all this stuff. We left over a little bit just because that's what we're used to. But we love it. Like it's one of my favorite challenges about the whole league is being in the CAA.
Yeah. So that's CAA league. So how many teams are in that league off the top of your head?
So we have 9. You get Charleston, in South Carolina. Then you get Wilmington and Elon in North Carolina. You've got James Madison, William Mary, Towson, Delaware, um, Hofstra, and Northeastern. And everybody really got to go down south to play. So a lot of travel,
Yeah.
with the league. But what I call it's big boy baseball. We go down there and we get there on Thursday nights and we play Friday, Saturday, Sunday like the big leagues. One of the coolest stats I can throw at people about the CAA is, the last 2 years, the top 20 pitchers in the country get named semifinalists for Pitcher of the Year award. And
Mm.
everybody always says the SEC is the best pitching. Nothing gets better than the SEC. The last 2 years, the SEC has had 6 nominees out of the 20. The last 2 years, the CAA's had 7 nominees out of the 20. And so between us, we've had 13. And what it is just every Friday night in the CAA is big boy baseball. And
Mm.
it's a lot of fun. And like, it's a good drafted league. We had over 30 some drafted out of the league last year. And, we had 2 guys off our roster. And, it's just, I love it, and it's hard to do. Boston College has the ACC. But after that, I think we have the next best league in the
So
Northeast.
so don't so don't sleep on the CAA league. So
Oh,
anybody listening out there,
not Charleston and Elon. Elon was, had a first rounder, and the Wilmington had a first rounder last year. I don't know how many leagues can say that.
yeah, I don't want to start anything, but who's Hofstra's biggest rival? Who do the guys want to fight, and who do they want to go to battle with?
It used to be Delaware back in the day, but I
Okay.
think since we CAA, they get really fired up for the Southern opponents. So like Wilmington brings out the best in Hofstra. Elon, Charleston we swept Charleston the last 2 times they've been on Long Island. So the last 2 times they come up, we're beating them 6 times. And it's just seeing something like that fires up the guys to play the Southern opponents.
That's
like
awesome.
a North-South.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Also, when you're recruiting for Hofstra, you're looking for guys that are 4-year guys, right? It's not like I'm going to be here for 3 years and then go to the draft. It's strictly 4-year, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, we hope for that. But like John Rooney, when we recruited him out of high school, he was a 2A pitcher of the year, 2A basketball player of the year, really raw kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, pitched a little bit as a freshman, then got better in the Hamptons, and then pitched better his sophomore year, then pitched better in the Cape. And then his junior year, he's CAA pitcher of the year. And so he got drafted after his junior year, coming in out of high school. You would have thought, no doubt, you have John Rooney for, 4 years. But I think as much as him going in the 3rd round, like that made all of us as coaches super, proud of him and that, we took a raw kid and was able to develop his skills. And, we joke, he never threw a changeup in high school. He never picked ace in high school, and so when he would get the pick sign from the catcher as a freshman, he'd nod his head yes, telling him he knew how to do it, and he'd lift his leg and then throw him over. Well, then his junior year, he led the country in pickoffs with 18.
Oof,
And
that's nice.
so that's how good he got from his freshman into junior year. And that's the stuff I'm most proud of is like, I got to think at the big schools, anybody can recruit the most talented kids and, be a really good coach, when you get the best ones. But, I love the kids that we get. And like Beto Freesia from the island hit 220 with 10 RBIs, his freshman year. And then, the last 2 years, he was his best hitter in the CAA and gets drafted by the Phillies. And now is one of the top hitters in the Phillies this summer. And, those are stuff that I'm proud of and that we try to get as guys that have, a lot of potential, I guess, would be the bigger thing for us.
That's awesome. And how do you get some of these guys ready for the next level, whether it is getting drafted or whether it is to go play independent baseball or just at life in general? I mean, there's obviously more to baseball after school, but certain guys that you're getting ready for that next level, how do you see it, or how does that kind of progress through freshman year to all of a sudden senior year?
A couple of things. Like first thing we've done, since I've been there now 9 years, 10 years, the thing I've been able to do is bring back drafted guys, from the program that I've had in there. So I think I've had over 10 guys in the last 6 years either get drafted or signed professional baseball. Plus, my assistant coach, Matt Wessinger, was a 5th round draft choice. Probably the best player in, St. John's history as a position player. My pitching coach was a 24th rounder and pitched 6 years with the Mariners. So I like the fact that, the kids are seeing people right in front of them that, you hear them tell their stories. Blake, my pitching coach, only threw 12 innings his first 2 years in college. Then his junior year was great and goes a 24th rounder. Matt Wesson wasn't the biggest high school kid and not the greatest guy his freshman year, but then turns into be one of the best players. So it wasn't something that was handed to them. And I think it's great for the kids to see those guys and have Rooney's of the world come back or Beto Freesias of the world come back and lets them know all of their hard work pays off. And then the big thing that's been super successful for us is Summer League. That's the thing we're going to miss this year is like
That's true.
25 guys, I think, went out last summer for us and just playing, just doing, and trying to find the right fit for them league wise. But the fact of just getting that, we call it data, You know, they get on the field, they get data. They get on the mound, they've got data. They get in the batter's box and take it swings, they're getting data. And the more data that they collect, we can be more successful. So last year we had 28 guys go out in the summer. We didn't hit that great last season. We were probably like a 230 batting average. When the pandemic hit, we were hitting 303 and we were 23rd in the country in batting average. And I
Uh,
think that was just development. That was, you know, getting those guys in, playing them, getting them in summer ball, fall, and then everybody was getting to see. And now we'll return that whole group for next year to start the season. So we played 15 games, 14 on the road, Purdue, Nevada, New Mexico, and LaSalle, and you know we were hitting 303 as a team. So I got to think we're going to be all right heading into next year.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to next year. And also, where would you say majority of the guys you are recruiting are coming from? Are they coming from this Northeast, or do you ever go out west, or is it more we're in this Northeast region?
It's mostly in the Northeast region. You know, originally I wanted to lock down, you know, Long Island and
Yeah.
get all the kids. And, you know, I sort of did that in 13, 14, 15. One of the problems I made with that, and it was a mistake to be truthful, was, you know, if you get too many kids from one area, they usually just hang out with each other. And
Mm,
it was hard to fit in guys from Virginia or New Jersey or Connecticut with the guys from Long Island because the Long Island guys knew each other for a long, you know, they would hang in their pot of like 10. And so maybe they would take in two or three, but they weren't taking in 10 others. So, you know, I tried to not take too many in any given year from just Long Island. You know, I try to stay to 2 to 3. If I do that over 4 years, I'm somewhere between 12 and 15 guys from the island. And then I try to take upstate New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Connecticut, some Pennsylvania, and stay in that area. We can get out to California kids every once in a while, maybe a Florida kid every once in a while, but mostly this region for sure.
oh, that's very honest of you to obviously admit, too many Long Island kids. And, this question I've asked a couple coaches, and I got to give credit where credit's due because Johnny Mock set this up. I know you know him. He's our Rawlings rep. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the kids to be kind of one of the premier Rawlings partners as far as schools go in this area, in this Northeast area?
You know, my first year is 2012. We led the country in batting and all this, you know, accolades. We were top 10 in 15 categories in batting. And so after a year, you know, I'm a head coach and I'm like, I have to find you know, somebody to partner up with. And so I meet with Nike, I meet with Under Armour. I think I met Easton, Louisville, you pick it, I met with him. And then I
Yeah.
met John Malkin, my last meeting from Rawlings. And going into the meeting, you know, in my head, I was thinking I might go with Nike, which we're now like as a school Nike, but now we were all Rawlings with all gear and everything up until this past season. We still use all their equipment, their gloves, their bats, because it's just the best. But after meeting with him and talking with him and him being a baseball guy, it was a no brainer to go with Rawlings. It's a, you know, you're wearing the sweatshirt now, like the brand,
Yeah.
their uniforms, their equipment, their gloves, the bats. I mean, everything is just the best. And so, to be truthful, I felt really honored to even be partnered with Rawlings overall. And then, you know, just to be able to stay with John these last 9 years has just made it really easy, really convenient. Rawlings has, you know, always stood by us. Like we played Texas A&M opening night a few years back and we lost 5-3 late on a 2-run single late. We were winning.
Mm,
We out played really well in front of 7,000 people. And I remember after games, you know, I got calls from like just 3 Rawlings people that I never even talked to, saying they were following the game and they were rooting for us. And you know, that just made me feel really part of the family that Rawlings has there, and they've just always really taken care of us. But it's just a brand that's recognizable to the kids in the baseball world. So, you
mm.
know, it's huge for us. It's great for recruiting. You get asked it in every recruiting visit, and so then I take them down. I show them the, you know, the million uniforms and the gloves and the and the bats, and then it's funny is after we get a recruit, you know, they start using the Rawlings bat and getting ready for it in high school, and so it really
Mm.
works. But yeah, it's just been awesome. You know, Malkin's been just a great rep and awesome for the region, and Rawlings has been a great, you know, partner for us to have, and I've been really privileged to be with them for my career.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And the kids, do they ask that question like, "Hey, what gear do we like use here or whatever?" Like, is that a typical question?
I would say this, like parents, when you have a meeting or about academics, where are they going to live? Can they have a car on campus? What's their schedule? How with all the travel do you have? Do they get good grades? All this. I think if their parents were in the room, they would only ask two questions. The two questions would be, what do you do for food? And then where, and use for baseball. And I think those are big concerns the kids have coming
Uh,
into to places. And so, if everything is being equal with the school, then I definitely think gear and, what they get and all that's very high on their list. So when I do the visit around campus, I show them about 17 different places to eat. And then when I get back, I show them into our Rawlings equipment room and show them all the Rawlings gear. I hiddenly do that just because I know it's important to them, even when I'm, on the trip with the parents.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yep, everybody has the same thing to say about Johnny Mocken. So the legend of him is growing on here. I had a bunch of some schools from that area. I'm sure you know the schools that are Rawlings premier partners out here, and they all have the same thing to say. The gear's phenomenal. John's been great. So that's nice to hear the consistency out of everybody. So I got to ask this question just because you went to West Alabama. So what did you end up becoming a football fan, and are you Roll Tide or are you War Eagle?
It's funny. Of all teams, I grew up, I liked Clemson.
Mm.
And so I hate Bama, and I liked
Oh.
all than Bama when I was in there. But I went out a few times. I was really close to Tuscaloosa, so I've been out in Tuscaloosa, but I never liked the Tide. I just couldn't do it. And Auburn was awesome. It's still one of my dreams is to go play at Auburn. Um, and because I remember going scouting games and stuff because I coached at West Al when I was done playing. And yeah, it's definitely go back. But I'm an Auburn fan, but my team is Clemson and football. So it's Roll Tide as me, or we butt heads a lot.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome to hear. So I thank you for joining me, John. And we're in New Jersey. So when things become normal and you're out here, in Long Island, take a drive to New Jersey with John and I'd love to meet you face to face.
Well, I will for sure. And great job on these podcasts. You're growing and meeting the guys and getting all the right people. I saw the coaches that you've been doing, and they're all good people and good information. And some of my best friends in the industry. And really appreciate you having us and letting us talk.
Yeah, you guys have been all great and you didn't disappoint either. So I definitely going to be rooting for Hofstra. I don't really follow college baseball that much. I'm more of like an MLB guy, but I know next year, I know the schools that I'll be rooting for and I'll be watching and add Hofstra to the list.
I'll bring some gear when I visit, so we'll get
Awesome,
some
man.
gear.
Thanks.
Bye.